Clint Holland asks, Bill, you had said that Hillary was a felon based on multiple U.S. statutes in your latest firewall. How would you respond to this article via Snopes that busts the claim, calling it mostly false? Here's what's fascinating about this. So I get this question, and included in the Facebook link is a link to the Snopes article about did Hillary Clinton break the law? And I keep going to these things, and because I'm prepared, and I like to be prepared, I go to these things thinking, okay, God, you know, maybe I made a big mistake. Maybe I completely misread this thing. Maybe I just completely misread it, and I'm wrong. Let me look at what Snopes has to say. So here's what Snopes has to say about whether or not Hillary is legally responsible. What's true? This is from Snopes. Former U.S. Attorney General Michael Mukasey, I guess, appeared on MSNBC on 24th of August 2015 and opined that Hillary Clinton was disqualified from holding office due to her use of a private email server while serving as Secretary of State. What's false? Bipartisan legal analysts agreed that Mukasey's assertion wasn't plausible, and he retracted his statement a few days later. In other words, the Snopes reaction to the question of whether or not did she break the law, yes or no, the response is a congressman made the charge, and then the congressman withdrew the charge on the specific subtext of disqualified from holding any office in the United States government. So what they did basically was they said, well, there's a lot of legal experts who say that it's not constitutional from barring you from holding office in the United States government. And they go on for a whole page about this, whether or not it's constitutional to have a regulation that bars you from ever holding office in the United States government when in fact the Constitution doesn't prohibit it, blah, 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 blah. But nothing in here, not a word, not a peep about whether or not she's guilty of what the question was. Did she leave email? Did she turn in all of her records at the State Department? No. Did she try to destroy or obstruct some of these things? Yes. These are crimes. And so what is so amazing to me is, number one, how transparent this is in terms of the false thing. Oh, by the way, yeah, basically, so they said, no, it's false that Hillary is committed an email thing because some representative made the charge that she's not eligible to hold office based on the statute, and legal experts have said that aspect of the statute is non-constitutional. Does that address whether or not she kept the emails? No. Does it address whether she had secured information on her server? No. Does it do any of that? No. Snopes is a left-wing, George Soros-funded propaganda machine. And so, once again, this is the kind of prestidigitation, this is the kind of misdirection that gets so many people off the trail. Now, this is the part, I actually had this conversation earlier today without knowing this question was coming. This is the part of it that I can't really crack. I can't understand. I kind of can, but it's still the biggest part of the mystery to me. There are the statutes. I presented them in that firewall, and that is, in fact, the actual U.S. code. It's actual, honest-to-God law, and it states very clearly what the conditions are in order to violate that statute. And there's no question that Hillary Clinton violated all three of them. No question. So why are we not cutting to the chase? Why do we allow ourselves to be led with this kind of distraction that they used at Snopes and the rest of it? Why are we talking about, well, was it top secret or above top secret? Was the classification marking on it before she got the email, or was it classified marking afterwards, or was it classified after she got the email? It doesn't matter. Did she turn it in? No. Guilty. Did she try to erase these things? Yes. Guilty again. Has she behaved with gross negligence regarding state secrets? Well, extreme carelessness precisely equals gross negligence. That's 3. And nobody talks about this. Nobody talks about it. And this is the thing that's so hard for me to fathom, because I had thought that if you started looking at these things, there'd be this incredibly complicated knot that no one could understand unless you were a Supreme Court justice and you did, 15 years at Harvard Law and all the rest of it. Now, I'm going to come back to the Commerce Clause because it's a perfect example. The Commerce Clause is being used by the Senate, by Congress, in order to pass Obamacare. Well, where's your constitutional authority to do this? To change 1/6 of the economy of the country and make Americans buy things that they don't want to buy? Where's your constitutional authority for that? Those of them that deigned to answer the question in the first place said, well, it's authorized in the Commerce Clause. How does that work? Well, Congress has the authority to regulate trade between the states. Ta-da! And it is true that fragment is in the Commerce Clause, but fragments of anything are not the complete thing. The Commerce Clause says, I think I've got this verbatim, Congress shall have the power to regulate commerce between the states, foreign powers, and the Indian tribes. I know I've covered this ground before. It needs to be covered again, because this is their justification for all the things that they're doing. The justification for Obamacare is that sentence, Congress shall have the power to regulate commerce between states. And so they're going to say, well, it's interstate commerce in terms of like this is going to be a national program, so it's going to affect all the states, so it's interstate, so definitely we have the power to get involved with it and implement it. But that's not what the sentence says. The sentence says Congress shall have the power to regulate commerce between states, foreign powers, and Indian tribes. When they say states, they mean state. They mean the state of Alabama, not the people of Alabama. And you have this kind of mock kind of trial runs through my head where I start thinking, how would I argue this in terms of the Supreme Court? They've already ruled against what the sentence says. So what do I do? If I go to the Supreme Court, let's say, and I say, sir, this is very clear. This has nothing to do with, Congress has no power to regulate commerce among the people. And then he would say, well, why would you say that? I said, because it only has the power to regulate states, Indian tribes, and foreign powers. If you're not a state, if you're not a foreign tribe, an Indian tribe, and you're not a foreign power, then Congress has nothing to do with your business. Leave us alone. He says, well, the justices answer back, well, how do you know that we're not talking about the people here? And then my response would be extremely simple. Say, Your Honor, it's very simple. The Constitution, which is the authority that grants you the power to sit there, as well as all the rest of it, the Constitution is an instruction manual, and it's also a construction manual. How do we build this government? Okay, so far so good. What we find when we read the Constitution is that the Constitution is absolutely clear and absolutely consistent about the names of the three parties involved in this contract that we're about to make. The Constitution is a contract, and it's a contract between three entities. It's a contract between the federal government, it's a contract between the state government, and it's a contract between the people of the country. And all throughout the Constitution, without fail, and without any exceptions, these are how the parties are referred to. The United States, that's the federal government, the states, which means the state governments, or the people. And it's the United States, the states, or the people, all throughout the Constitution. The right of the people shall not be infringed. To carry firearms shall not be infringed. We're talking about the people here. So it's these three parties: the United States, the federal government, the states, the state governments, and the people. The Commerce Clause was designed so that one state couldn't make a deal with France that was different from another state. Minnesota couldn't get a different import rate than Alabama. That's what the regulating between the states mean. When they say regulate commerce among the states, what they really mean is regulate commerce among the states. They really mean what they said. And finally, Your Honors, we can make this crystal clear. If, in fact, the Commerce Clause was designed to do what Congress has been doing with it, which is messing around with everybody's business, then the Constitution would have read very simply. If that was their intent, and if that was the law, then the Constitution would have been very simple in this particular regard. It would have said, the Commerce Clause would read this way: Congress shall have the right to regulate commerce among the people. Crystal clear. But it doesn't say that. It not only doesn't say that, it doesn't include the people anywhere in this argument. It deals with political structures. All three of them are political structures. A state is a political structure, not a physical structure. an Indian tribe is a political structure, and a foreign power is a political structure. It's got nothing to do with individuals at all. And so then finally they'll say, okay, look, well, in 1936 there was this ruling about this guy growing wheat. He couldn't grow wheat on his own farm and so on. And the Supreme Court ruled that blah, 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 blah. What do you have to say about that? Very simple. I said, well, the Supreme Court's wrong. What kind of law degree do you have? I don't have any law degree. I'm a theater dropout. But I can read an English sentence. And apparently you guys can't, because I can read the English sentence. And our entire theory of government is the people who have to obey the laws send representatives to make the laws, which means that the people have to understand the laws. And the Constitution founders went to a great deal of trouble, mostly through that great unsung hero, Gouverneur Morris, who wrote "We the people of the United States." He wrote the preamble, that's his words, but who spent an awful lot of time with his committee taking complex things and making them simple, which is the highest form of intelligence. So if he'd wanted to say regulate commerce among the people, he would have said among the people. And if they say that there's precedent that the Supreme Court has ruled, then the Supreme Court is wrong. And it's wrong for the same reason that the Supreme Court only has the power to say that it's wrong, because of this document. This document is composed of English sentences. I can read an English sentence. There's no asterisks. There's no subheadings. There's no see section 22 for exceptions. Nothing. It's clear, crystal clear. Same thing as the Second Amendment. Crystal clear. Crystal clear. The Second Amendment says, a militia beneficial to the health of the state, the right of the public to arms shall not be infringed. And people say, well, that just applies to militias. No. It's a declarative sentence. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. It says that a militia is a nice thing to have, but it doesn't say they have to be armed in order to make a militia. And it doesn't say they have to be armed and be in a militia in order to be armed. And furthermore, you idiots, the definition of a militia, as opposed to an army, is it's a group of citizens who bring their own weapons. That's what a militia is. A militia is a group of people who bring their own weapons. The whole thing is, it's ridiculous on their face. And we just sit here and argue about how many angels can dance on the head of a pin, when in fact all you have to do is just read the sentence. She's guilty of 3 felonies. She's guilty. Now, I had thought, and one of these felonies disqualifies her from office in the United States. So, however, Sergeant needs a drink. RK, if you guys are still getting thirsty, here's another RK. In fact, one more for the road. Here's another RK for the road. What is the psychological dynamics of this? Why are we even arguing about this? Why do we argue about the Commerce Clause? Why do we argue about whether or not she's guilty? Well, we don't know if this holding office is constitutional. Well, then sort it out now. Sort it out 5 years ago or 10 years ago or whatever. Then change if you don't think it, then that's the law. See, this is the point. Whether it's constitutional or not, that is the law. That is the law that she broke. And it's the law she knew about she was breaking. So it's not even a question that she knew what the statute said when she broke the law, and she broke it anyway. Now you're trying to water down the statute and take teeth out of the statute that she broke after the fact? Fine. Take away the barred from public office. That's fine. We'll just hit her with 3 felonies, and she can do her first term in prison. You know, there are times when I think about this, and I think about how off the rails reason is, and the simple things, how I keep going into these things expecting to find this incredibly complex, arcane kind of thing. That was my expectation when I went to the Snopes thing about Hillary. Oh my God, there's some giant thing that I missed. And it's like, no. If you're trained to think, you realize, what did the Snopes article do? All the Snopes article said was a congressman brought the charge, and then the congressman retracted the charge, so she's not guilty. That has nothing to do with it at all. But that's what the entire argument was about. Oh, and by the way, Volok has argued this, whether or not this business of being barred from the government, whether that's constitutional. Here, let's write 3 pages of that, as if it's relevant. It doesn't matter. Did she keep records that she's not allowed to keep? Yes. Did she try to destroy those records? Yes. 2 felonies. Did she behave with gross negligence? Well, she behaved with extreme carelessness, which is the legal dictionary definition of gross negligence. So there's 3. I think I'm going to do a recut of this. Been thinking about this a lot. I'm probably going to recut that afterburner. Sorry, that firewall. Is Hillary guilty? And I'm going to cut 2/3 of it out. I'm just going to say 3 felonies in 93 seconds, and I'm not going to reshoot it. I'm just going to case number 1, case number 2, statute number 3. Any questions? Done. Out. And all of the rest of it, and all the commentary, I'm just going to cut that out. And I'm starting to think more along these lines in terms of product, and thinking about the product and the way the product that we produce here is changing, and how the market is changing is a great discussion. If we can remember to think of it, to be a good thing to do next time, because it is really a remarkable world out there. Okay,